Hey, it's Azrael Lawless, and once again you found yourself in Vella, a place where we talk about all things to do with the new exciting serial reading platform from Amazon Kindle. And today we are doing another episode of Lawless Reads, where I read you a first episode from a story out on Kindle Vella. And today's story is Humans Are Scary by author Chris Opacki. And I've got a little friend here. This is Borgu, as most of you probably know. And he's going to sit here because this story is about a friend of his, Borgu. So, Humans Are Scary by Chris Opacki. Here's the synopsis. Borgu is a goblin that lives in a burrow under an ancient maple tree standing near the Mountainview Cemetery. Humans scare the hell out of him and his best friend, a white rabbit, but he can't avoid confrontations with those evil beings. When the cemetery caretaker causes problems for the forest creatures, Borgu must find a solution before his friends are hurt or possibly killed. Now, even with the synopsis, this sounds like it could be a kid's story. I assure you, it is not. When you click the link to follow this story for yourself, down in the description of this video, you'll see the graphic on it. Might make you still think that, but I assure you, once again, it is not. Episode 1. Borgu lived in a burrow under an ancient maple tree. It was the most enormous tree in the grove, and its red leaves scattered on the ground and crunched when he stepped on them. He prodded the bearberry bush, which he had planted years ago to hide the entrance to his home. A robin and group of sparrows voiced their opinions of him as he stretched his arms outward. He smiled at them. They weren't afraid of him, nor he of them, but they were a cranky bunch. To the south lay a cemetery. Spotted with gravestones that looked like soldiers in a formation, it was erected on a lush grass field. Many had bouquets of red carnations placed in front of them in honor of the resident. A white house with gray roofing stood on the edge of the graveyard where the caretaker lived. Smoke trailed from its chimney and hovered above. Borgu trembled at the thought of discovery because the scary humans would kill him. Oh, they would hurt me bad. There are no humans today. Good. Thump, thump, thump. His best and only friend, Buddy the rabbit, was already coming to visit. Borgu loved when she came over, which she did daily. Buddy had given birth to 5 kits recently, one white like her. The 4 boys were a mix of brown, gray, and white. The father, of course, not wanting to be responsible, didn't stick around. Hello, Miss Buddy. Buddy thumped once, which Borgu recognized as a positive response. Rabbits didn't speak like humans or like Borgu, but they had a language, and Borgu understood it, just like he learned the language of the foxes, birds, squirrels, and the other animals that lived nearby. The young goblin was proud of his collection of dialects. He even understood a smattering of the human language spoken in the area. Not much, but enough, just in case he needed it someday. Let's go in, Buddy. I'm making a stew, he said. He pointed towards his burrow. Borgu crept around the bearberry bush, and Buddy hopped underneath. Borgu opened the door and followed Buddy inside. Borgu kept the burrow organized and comfortable, the most comfortable ever. He had smoothed out the walls. It didn't look like it was a hole in the ground. Some roots of the maple tree above created natural shelving and seating for him. Only Buddy the rabbit visited, so seating wasn't an issue. The foxes were always busy hunting. The squirrels always foraged. Unfortunately, the birds didn't like the burrows. Sadly, the kits had to stay home. They weren't old enough to leave their own burrow. Borgu straightened out the blankets. He had borrowed them from a house across the street from the graveyard. Looking in the mirror, which he gained from an abandoned car in the same neighborhood, he ignored the crack on the side, slicked his tuft of black hair with a handful of clay, pulled it into a top knot, and tied it with a black shoelace. He focused on a green spot on his bulbous nose that was slightly darker than the rest of his mottled skin and squeezed it. A new wart! I'm blessed! He grabbed a sliver of wood and picked at his teeth, nice and sharp. Convinced that he looked presentable, he went back to cooking and conversing with his company. I'm sorry that I'm not well put together today, Buddy. He grabbed a ladle and stirred a cast iron kettle mounted on top of a circular fireplace. The fire crackled, popped, and hissed as the flames licked on all sides. The smoke drifted upwards into a pipe that he had pushed through the top of his burrow. It danced and swayed as the stew bubbled, and carrots, potatoes, and berries floating at the top. Rabbit would taste good in a stew. I can't hurt my friends or eat them, though. His green cheeks reddened like a Macintosh apple. He shrugged his shoulders and gazed at his feet. I'm sorry I thought like that, buddy. The rabbit wiggled her nose, twitched her whiskers, and grunted twice. I'm okay, Borgu said while his eyes widened and he forced a frown. I miss my parents sometimes. He looked at Buddy from the corner of his eye. Buddy shook her head and cleaned her nose with a flick of her paw. Borgu pulled out some vegetables and berries from the stew and placed them on a flat rock in front of the rabbit. The rabbit nibbled, honked, and gulped. Borgu smiled from ear to ear as Buddy approved of the culinary perfection. He took great pride in providing a wholesome meal for his visitor. A grotesque scream exploded from outside, interrupting Borgu and Buddy's lunch. Borgu's left ear perked up, and so did the rabbit's. It was a rabbit's scream. Buddy looked up at her green friend and thumped her hind legs, a warning that something was very wrong. Borgu and Buddy burst through the door and around the bearberry bush. They stopped and watched the caretaker's red truck speeding up the side road of the cemetery. Behind the truck, fleeing the scene of this hit and run, on the road lay a rabbit twitching and convulsing. They waited for the caretaker to park his mobile death machine and walk back into his house. As soon as the caretaker disappeared, they sprinted and hopped to the injured rabbit. He had lain there in the most abnormal pose. One leg was bent awkwardly, and another looked flattened like a plush doll without filling. The poor rabbit tried to get up, but only the upper body moved, like a door hinge. Blood dripped from his mouth and nose and pooled in his brown and gray fur. He grunted, and soon the violent jerking stopped. Buddy cried like a human baby, but more primal, more piercing. She looked up at Borgu, her eyelids drooped. This was your kid's father, she nodded. Borgu's eyes watered, and then they came full stream. He picked up Buddy and held her close to his heart. The anger in Borgu swelled and transformed him into something sinister, something not like Borgu. The caretaker must pay. Borgu picked up the dead rabbit and brought him to the grove. Buddy hopped slowly behind, and she thumped. Go to your kids, Buddy. I will bury them. Him. He caressed the dead rabbit softly as he walked. He didn't like to see the forest animals die or get injured. So he placed the rabbit in a clearing behind his tree, went to his burrow, and brought his shovel. He dug a hole deep enough so that the corpse would not attract other forest animals, just like the humans did. Of course, it was natural for other animals to eat a new corpse. It was how the creatures kept the forest clean. However, this rabbit was unique. It was Buddy's baby daddy. He placed the corpse in the grave and whispered, May you pass to rabbit heaven and live in a great green grassland with majestic burrows and safe from all predators. He covered the grave and created a mound of stones on top. Something must be done, he said. He looked up towards the canopy where the branches and leaves weaved together to protect from the weather. I will kill him. The thought of confronting a human, especially a big one, made him tremble. Humans are so scary. The following day, Buddy came to visit as the sun peeked over the horizon. Borgu could already feel the air warming as he sat up in his bed, blankets sliding off onto the floor. He pulled out some kindling, placed it on the fire, and lit it with some matches. Borgu was skilled at starting fires without these human technologies, but the matches made the tedious task easier. He grabbed a frying pan, another borrowed item from the humans, and positioned it on a flat rock next to the fire so that it wouldn't wiggle. A wicker basket sat near his bed, and he grabbed some eggs that were stored in it. The humans won't miss these. He cracked them open and let the inside slide into the pan. They sizzled as they cooked. What should we do about this human and his truck? Borgu asked. Buddy wiggled her nose and scratched the ground. I agree. Something must be done. Buddy lowered his gaze. Don't kill him? I don't want to either. That monster, I should destroy his truck. I will cut his tires. Then he can't hurt us anymore. Buddy purred. True. He didn't do it on purpose. Your baby daddy probably was frightened and he just ran in an unfortunate direction. Buddy's whiskers twitched. I have to do this when it's dark. I would have a heart attack if that scary human saw me. Borgu pulled a carrot from the basket and handed it to Buddy. She grabbed it and ran in circles. Someone is happy, Borgu said, smiling. He prepared his eggs and ate them after they cooled. He thought his plan was foolproof, and he waited for the sun to set before setting out on his mission alone. Buddy had left to join her kids. This mission was too dangerous. She thought of her new family first. Her kids missing both parents would mean death for them, and she couldn't have that. Nor did Borgu want that for her. When the moon rose in the east, it cast a natural spotlight over the cemetery, creating long shadows like a troop of black ghosts. This was a dire circumstance for Borgu. It meant that if he wasn't meticulous, the caretaker or a visitor would see him. He shivered in fear. The dagger was a thing of metal, another item borrowed from the humans. Finders keepers, losers weepers. Borgu's motto. And that's it for today. That's not quite all of episode 1. So be sure and click the link in the information below this video and check this story out for yourself. As always, on Kindle Vella, the first 3 episodes of any story you're interested in are free with an Amazon membership. Take care of yourselves out there. This is Azriel Lawless for Hella Vella. Bye.